Milk Wars continues to be a crazy crossover that brings Cave Carson and his best buddy Swamp Thing into the mix. We'll take a deeper look coming up. What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is iRate Reviews, the show where I go over a comic book, its story, its art, give you my impressions, and let you know whether it's something you should go back to the comic book shop for or not. Make sure you subscribe to get more of these every single week. The book that I want to talk about is Cave Carson Swamp Thing #1, which is a tie-in to the Doom Patrol JLA crossover and Milk Wars, a insane mix of all these different characters that is bringing a lot of different interests together in a really intriguing and absolutely insane story. So Cave Carson and Swamp Thing have somehow infiltrated the headquarters of Retcon, and now we get to see the aftermath of exactly what kind of plan they're trying to pull together. This is the story that leads all the cybernetic eyes to find the heroes and bring the culmination of this entire event to its close. So it's the last one that you really want to read before the finale. In part number 4 of the Milk Wars crossover, we actually see Cave Carson with his cybernetic eye teaming up with Swamp Thing, which is a really interesting concept. We actually see that's a little bit more difficult when it comes to wrap your head around this, because we're not dealing with something as obvious as the covers that we have on the first 3 issues, but we're actually dealing with a map of the multiverse and how it's going to be impacting things. There's this coffee stain on the cover, which is going to insinuate a lot of stuff coming forward. But we just hop right into what seems to be an office that is full of milk. You know, we've got Cave Carson there sitting in his cubicle, we've got his daughter delivering him milk, and it seems like he's having some really unfortunate reactions when it comes to the milk. His stomach isn't necessarily sitting so well. You've got Wild Dog, who's there as the security officer, kind of playing things up, and Cave looks at his desk and realizes he's got these small figurines that look like, you know, Father Bruce, and they look like Wonder Wife. But the important thing is that there are so many people inside this office structure that are just doing so many different things to try and make sure that Retcon's office keeps going. They head themselves to the cafeteria and everything is milk. It's just milk, 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 as the cybernetic eye busts out of a small container of milk and it starts to basically kind of attack people. But Cave Carson has no time for that because he's trying to eat as much salad as he possibly can. It's a little ridiculous, but you'll find out why when he starts to throw up this giant viney substance that starts wrapping its way around people and kind of purging the milk from them by taking these, you know, these tentacles, these vines, and just kind of thrusting it into these people. It gets a little bit weirder because we start to see vegetative versions of Wild Dog, Cave Carson, and his daughter expand from this mass. There's a person that's from Retcon. That is until the vines crush his milk-filled skull and just explode it all over the place. And you know who that is? It's Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing has made his way out of Cave Carson's stomach into the offices of Retcon so that way he can help rescue the people that were there to partner with him. You know, he squeezes the actual physical milk from Wild Dog and from Cave Carson's daughter, which is kind of gross, but man, I can totally understand why that's happening. They go over a little bit of exposition and explanation as to why things happened. You know, ultimately, Cave Carson was about to be captured. He was going to do some infiltration, and Swamp Thing hid inside his stomach so that way he wouldn't be, you know, like found out about this. Of course, Retcon's not really going to stand for this, and they send more people to kind of confront Cave Carson and his daughter, but the combined team of Wild Dog and Swamp Thing are going to take them on. They make their way into this kind of junky area of Retcon's offices that has a lot of old technology in it, but on the screens you actually see The Passion of Rita Farr, which is the story of Rita Farr playing Jesus, it looks like. It's so weird, and then it just gets more weird because you've got these little dolls, the ones that were in Cave Carson's cubicle. You've got even more of them kind of sitting around here. So while his daughter is walking around, she picks up the Superman one. She picks up the small dolls of herself, Cave, Wild Dog, and Swamp Thing. And while Cave is trying to link up with his technology through his cybernetic eye, she is being accosted by all these different ones. You've got this kind of weird Flash thing. You've got Abraham Lincoln on there. The Superman grabs onto the top and jumps onto the top of Cave Carson. And it's like, oh no, they're full of meat. So you got these little meat puppets that are running around trying to basically take them down. It's so weird. That's the heart of the Milk Wars crossover, is that it's so weird, it's so out there, it's so strange. So you don't even really understand, you don't even really expect anything different when you see this explosion above Cave Carson's daughter and then Swamp Thing comes crashing down into the ground. Of course, followed by the brand new Wild Dog with all these other kind of compatriots, these compadres, these animal, insect kind of allies of his. Of course, that's only going to last for so long because Cave Carson busts out some bug spray, Swamp Thing busts Wild Dog's kind of mind control mask, and that leaves them with trying to escape, but not before they figure out what the power source of Retcon is. And thankfully, Retcon does have a sense of humor, because human resources is actually a filing cabinet system, one we saw earlier on in Doom Patrol, that it is where we have all the humans. So the humans are stored inside these cases, and they are powering Retcon's imagination offices. So you see all these historical figures. I mean, you got like Jimi Hendrix in there some places. There's so many people, so many artists that are powering this, creating their thoughts, moving these things forward. And what are we going to do? They just pull the plug on them. They just kill everybody, basically disconnecting everyone in their consciousnesses. And this is where things get even weirder, because Wild Dog suggests, hey, if we just compose them into fertilizer, I can make some sort of bomb so that way we can get out of here. And Cave's like, all right, cool, sounds like a plan. And the next thing you see is this giant mass grave made by Swamp Thing that he starts to like crumble people up, like just, it's so weird, because now that they're just all crumpled up, ground up human fertilizer, they make a bomb out of a spray can and blow out the side of Retcon's office, which is floating out in this kind of pocket dimension. And it's just, oh man, the insanity doesn't go anywhere. It's just so weird and so crazy. But Cave Carson, in his final confrontation, is going up against all these other creatures, and we're going to lead into part 5, the finale of Milk Wars, knowing exactly what's going on with this. And this is where that sets up the beginning of the rest of the issue. So even though it came last, it's really first. As Cave Carson is trying to make his escape, that's when he sends the actual message to the people that he's going to rally, to Batman, to Wonder Woman, to the Doom Patrol, and the rest of the Justice League of America. That is how he sends everything out, as he kind of takes his fate as being captured in an individual. And that's probably where we're going to be picking up in episode number 5, part 5 of Milk Wars. But overall, I would say that it's hard to really quantify a lot of writing when it comes to this particular series. I thought that it was a little bit weird and a little bit weak when it came up to the beginning, but as we kind of picked everything up, if you are okay with grinding up people into fertilizer and making bombs out of them and using them as a device in order to escape, sure, it's perfectly fine for you. The art is a bit of a miss for me. It's not necessarily, the best that it comes down to, but I mean, the design of Swamp Thing is not necessarily something that's up to snuff for me. The design of the characters, they seem a little bit of rudimentary, but I'll give it a pass because it is such a short-term kind of crossover situation. But I can't wait to see what's in part number 5, so I want to know what you guys think about this, so hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.